Audio engineering has become a science, and I like to keep it playful.
We're joined by LA-based indie rock band Fwango. Since releasing their first single in 2022, the band has steadily built a catalog of songs that blend the grit and melodic punch of early 2000s indie rock with lyrics that dig into the parts of life that rarely feel settled. Now with their newest single, Sharpen Your Teeth, leaning into a more atmospheric and industrial sound, we're super excited to see where the band heads next, and welcome.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, cool intro.
So I went back to listen to your entire catalog today just so it could be fresh and top of mind. And you've been releasing singles consistently since 2022, but there's no EP or album. So was that a conscious decision? Were you still figuring out who Fwango was sonically, or was there something else maybe behind that choice?
I think we were figuring it out. Honestly, that was largely, I think, my kickback. I think Cody is the most I want to make an EP, and I have been the most I want to make a single. And we've compromised in that we've made, 8 singles now, and we're finally making an EP. But at least personally, I wanted us to find our sound more, and I wanted us to just improve as artists. I feel like every time we make a single, we all feel like we're finally getting a hold of this whole thing, and that we can actually do it, and we figured it out, and we're pushing more towards a unified sound that we all like. It's fun with singles, you can just sort of play in whatever direction you want. The one single can be a sort of summertime pop song, and the other can be an industrial song. And it's been really fun to play around with that and experiment. But I very much get Cody's inclination towards making a larger artistic piece. That's really awesome.
In hindsight, I think, Zach, I had a lot of reason to keep pushing us to make singles. And I think, I don't know if we would have gotten to a song like Sharpen Your Teeth if we had tried to make an EP after our second or third song. We've had so much exploration that now I feel like we go back to each song. We're like, oh, I like this part, I like that part. And that's kind of influencing our writing now towards this EP.
Yeah. And there's definitely recirculating themes across all of your songs, starting all the way back from the beginning. So there's themes of uncertainty, resistance to change, wanting stability, but feeling stuck in cycles. So were those songs coming from lived experiences at the time, or did those patterns only kind of become obvious once you step back and looked at the bigger picture?
That's really interesting. I think Logan, if he was here, would be really good at speaking to this.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that as a bigger picture. I think sometimes we get asked what we want people to feel when they're listening to our songs. And usually my feeling is I kind of like people to feel a sort of sense of existential dread, because I feel a lot of existential dread. It's something I struggle a lot with, and it's something that Logan struggles a lot with. So I think that is represented very, very heavily in the music. And I think Logan in particular has talked a lot with us about sort of stress around changing and being really rigid. And his growth throughout that. All of us have grown so much, but I think Logan in particular has really, I think, tackled any sort of resistance to change and is now very open to change. So I'm interested to see lyrically how his lyrics change from maybe struggling with those themes to where he's at now. And I guess that's pretty represented in So Strange, where now, rather than these songs that are really inward about things that we're personally struggling with, So Strange is, at least to me, outward about,
That's literally one of the questions word for word.
Really? Yeah.
That's cool. And you literally just said it word for word, and it was about that song.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a really good representation of where Logan has shifted throughout the years. I think Logan and I are both very political people, and So Strange has a lot of political themes. It's pretty hard to write a political song without being cringe. It's hard to write a good political song. I really admire people who can do it, and I think Logan did a fantastic job lyrically on So Strange.
I know first singles can say a lot about a band, so looking back at If You Want Me to Move, do you feel like that song still represents Fwango, or have you outgrown parts of who you were back then?
It's an early version of Fwango. That is the first iteration of Fwango. We joke around that none of us love that song anymore. All of our friends love it. like my best friends are still like, when are you going to make another If You Want Me to Move? And like when we play that one at the shows, like that gets the whole room going because it's dancey and it's fun. We've grown so much. Like I think Zach and Logan like wrote the melody for the chorus and like the chords in like maybe an hour or two.
Yeah.
And then we got together, we wrote the drums in another 30 minutes, and then we recorded the song. And that's what the song was. Where now our process is like spending months and trying new elements and like swapping out a verse, changing the structure, and like we just spend so much time in the process. So I think we've just grown a lot as songwriters.
And I know with the newest single, Sharpen Your Teeth, you mentioned wanting to create something like a bit more industrial and atmospheric. So what actually changed in the room to create that sound? Maybe like with your process or, yeah.
I mean, that one was so funny because we have a really different process every song. Sometimes Logan will come with a demo, sometimes Cal will, sometimes Cody will, sometimes I will. That one was one of mine. And it's really funny because I made it originally a super industrial song. It's a song about trauma. It's like very heavy topics. I wanted all the instruments and the drums to be really gritty. And then somewhere in the line of making it, I got really bad writer's block and I completely rewrote all of the guitars to be much more like pretty. And the guys were like, yo, you lost like the whole essence of the song. Like this sounds cool. It's a really cool song, but you totally lost the general image of it. And then we went back and sort of finished writing it. But I think as far as in the room goes, it was just this room, you know. I think this was the first song that I wrote after moving to New York and I was in charge of. And it's a song about feeling isolated and a song that I wrote in a lot of isolation and then phone calls with Logan.
Yeah. And now that you've opened like the store to like the industrial atmospheric sound, are you guys viewing this track as like a one-off, or is this a glimpse sonically of where you might head?
Oh, that's a good question. What do you think, Cody?
I mean, I think there's gonna be some tastes of this going forward. Yeah, I don't think we've quite decided like where the EP is gonna land sonically, but I think we all had so much fun making this one, and like as a drummer, Zach came with this track and it was all electric drums. And I remember hearing this for the first time and I was like, Zach, this is so cool. But in my head, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to add anything to this. I was like, the electronic drums sounding great. And eventually, like, I sat down, I did a drum pass. I tried to bring like some of my influences into it. And they did evolve. And eventually, I think Zach finally let go of the fact that we were not going to have like electronic drums in the song. But a lot of like the tones and a lot of the playing were inspired by that early demo. So I think like I learned a lot from that. And like I would, encourage Zach. I'd be like, all right, let's do another song and actually include some electronic drums now, like let's mix it together.
Yeah, very cool. And Zach, you already kind of answered this question, but I was going to say up until So Strange, your past tracks feel a bit more internal. And then obviously you have So Strange and it's definitely more aimed outward. It's about the country, money, about systems around us. So what pushed you to write from that place?
I mean, that's all Logan. So Strange, a lot of us, we take a song and it's sort of like either we collaborate a ton and Frankenstein everything and some really cool songs have come from that, or we let one person lead and then the other person just has some influence. Logan just wrote that start to finish, like even down to the bass line. Cody obviously had a lot of input on drums. I think Cal had a lot of input on guitar, but that one was Logan's baby. And I mean, it's impossible not to be frustrated and inspired by politics. It almost feels silly at the moment not to be writing songs that have political influence with how serious and terrible everything is right now. And I think something interesting that just happens as you grow into like a real adult, I guess, is you heal a lot of things that are going on inside. And I know like we've all been doing that. And then suddenly writing about things inside isn't as fun. And you want to talk about the things in the world that you really can't heal on your own. And he'd do a better job of answering, but I would like to think that that's kind of where Logan is coming from.
That makes sense. And honestly, he did such an amazing job writing it. It can be writing a song about politics can get very sticky, but he still managed to do it in a way that makes a point, but also comes across as poetic. So the undercurrent of the message is there while it still maybe reads a bit peaceful on the surface. So
Yeah, we're not Rage Against the Machine, and we've never had the lived experiences of Rage Against the Machine. It would be really weird if we wrote like a Rage Against the Machine song.
yeah.
But this is, Logan grew up in the Midwest, and this is his take on a political song. I'm not Trent Reznor, and it would be really weird if my industrial song was like a Trent Reznor song. It wouldn't make any sense. But this is my take on that. It's cool, like reinterpolations of ideas.
Yeah. And one thing I definitely love, and you hear it more in your earlier tracks, is that your music has this like warm layer of fuzz. It almost feels like some of the songs are like coming through as a memory. Like I love that sound. So when you're producing, are there like certain textures or tones or even like imperfections that have become a part of like the Fwango DNA?
Yeah, this is like the nerdy question. I love this stuff. Yeah.
Zach was waiting. You're waiting.
That's a really I really appreciate that. That's really cool. I think like Over It is a good example of that. If I'm not mixing up our songs, like Over It, there's this sort of organ underlying a lot of guitars, and that organ is genuinely just a warm, vintage, probably broken organ with a mic in a bathroom like 20 feet away from the organ. One of the engineers we work with sometimes that has always been fantastic is Greasy, and he's really into this like, you don't have to do things the right way. He knows how to do things the right way, and that's why he can break the rules and do things like weird ways and find experimental ways of doing things. But yeah, in general, I think just really listening to your taste. There's so many people that are obsessed with doing things the right way and doing things to a science. But if it sounds good in the room, just do your best job to pick up what it sounds like in the room and then put that in the song. It doesn't have to be recorded perfect. I love keeping voice cracks. I love keeping like messed up notes, tones that are like low fidelity. Sometimes I'll like run something through a preamp and then out of the preamp through a bunch of stuff just to make it sound worse and then back into the computer. Yeah, it's just fun. It's meant to be playful. I think audio engineering has become a science, and I like to keep it playful. You should feel like a kid in a playground.
Yeah, I think it adds character to the song as well. What are your plans for, I almost said 2027, Jesus. What are your plans for 2026? Well, what do you have on the docket? New music coming out? Do you guys have any shows, any gigs?
We are going into work mode. This was, we tracked 2 songs, and Sharpen Your Teeth was the second of those tracks back in the fall. Both of those songs are out now. So we're in EP mode. We're meeting weekly, and, Zach's in New York. The 3 of us are here in LA, which makes for an interesting workflow, but we're all writing. And then we kind of come and do show and tell and see what everyone's been working on. We don't have a date, but we're excited on a lot of different tunes. There's gonna be a lot of music coming, and kind of like a part of our process with writing has always been playing shows. Like I think like Consequences, we wrote all of like the call and response chanting vocals for the back half, practicing for a show.
Yeah.
So we kind of try to book to encourage us to write. I think we're booking for like mid-July, playing back at Permanent Records or the Airliner in LA. But yeah, we're excited for that because we get in the room together. Zach will fly out and we kind of get that chemistry going again.
Oh, that's super exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it. I think those were the main questions that I had for you guys, but are there any final words that you would like to leave your fans and the listeners with?
Every song reinvents Fwango, and like this project started out literally as like us 4 and like 10 of our friends, and like we're just like insanely lucky people to like have an audience. We have so many friends who are musicians, and I play with them, and just like the reach that we have and the amount of like love that we've like received from music, it like keeps us going. I think like Sharpen Your Teeth was kind of like a shot in the dark for us. We trusted Zach's vision for it, but like we weren't sure like how it would be received, and everyone's like, yeah, this is like my favorite Fwango song. So I think just we're appreciative.
It is genuinely so strange. I never made music with that's funny, my bad. I never made music with the intent of people listening to it. So it is just so weird that people do, and really cool. It's really surprising to me that they ride with us, like between the songs because they all sound so different, and every single one we get, I guess, like you're saying, some sort of DNA. But yeah, I feel so grateful and appreciative, and all the messages people send us, it's really special. A lot of the songs are pretty intense and deeply personal and kind of hard to put out there. So the fact that it resonates with people, it means that the tough experiences that the songs are about aren't actually that unique, and other people can relate, which is really nice.
Won't you try and stay right? Don't you know